Rejected at the ceremony. Crowned Luna. By the Alpha King's greatest rival. Chapter 1. The scent of wild roses drifted through the air. Alara hated it. It reminded her of hope. And tonight, hope felt dangerous. She stood outside the ceremonial hall, while servants rushed past carrying flowers and silver trays. Nobody noticed her. Nobody ever did. She was only the healer's assistant. Only an Omega. Only the girl who cleaned wounds and carried herbs. Yet tonight, she wore a white ceremonial gown. Simple, plain, beautiful in its own way. Her fingers brushed the moonstone necklace around her throat. It had belonged to her mother, the only thing she had left. "You actually think he'll choose you?" A voice broke through her thoughts. Alara turned. 3 noble women stood nearby, smiling, cruel smiles. One of them laughed. "The Alpha King doesn't marry servants." Another crossed her arms. "Maybe she's confused." The third woman stepped closer. "Maybe she thinks being his mate means something." The group burst into laughter. Alara lowered her eyes. Not because they were right, because she was tired. Tired of fighting. Tired of proving herself. Tired of hearing the same insults. "Still," she said quietly, "the moon goddess chose us." The women exchanged looks, then laughed even harder. "The moon goddess made mistakes before. Maybe she was drunk. Maybe she felt sorry for you." Their laughter echoed through the corridor. Alara forced herself to walk away. She would not cry. Not tonight. Not on the most important night of her life. She entered the preparation chamber. The room instantly fell silent. Dozens of women turned to stare. Some looked curious. Others looked disgusted. At the far side of the room sat Celine, daughter of the richest alpha in the kingdom. Her golden dress sparkled beneath the lanterns. She looked like a queen already. When her eyes met Alara's, she smiled. A sharp smile. A dangerous smile. "You came." Alara nodded. Celine tilted her head. "You're brave." "I don't understand." "Oh, you will." Something cold moved through Alara's chest. "What do you mean?" Celine leaned back. "Nothing." The smile never left her face. And somehow that frightened Alara more than an insult ever could. Hours later, the ceremony began. The sacred clearing overflowed with wolves. Thousands had traveled to witness the Alpha King's mating ceremony. Torches surrounded the ancient stone platform. The moon priest stood near the sacred fire, waiting. Alara's heart pounded. This was it. The moment she had dreamed about since she was 18. The moment everything would change. A trumpet sounded. The crowd roared. Alpha King Darius entered. Tall, powerful, dressed in black ceremonial armor. He looked every inch a king. The cheers became deafening. Alara couldn't stop staring. For years she had loved him. Quietly, from a distance. Even when he ignored her. Even when he forgot her name. Even when everyone warned her to stop hoping. Because the bond was real. She had felt it. Every single day. Darius climbed onto the platform. His expression remained unreadable. The moon priest raised both hands. "Tonight, we celebrate destiny." The crowd cheered. "The moon goddess has blessed our kingdom with a sacred union." Another roar. The priest turned toward Alara. "Step forward." Her legs felt weak, but she obeyed. Every eye followed her. Thousands of eyes. Watching. Judging. Waiting. Then the priest spoke again. "Alpha King Darius." Darius stepped forward. The sacred fire crackled between them. "Do you accept the mate chosen by the moon goddess?" Silence fell. A strange silence. Too long, too heavy. Alara frowned. Something felt wrong. Very wrong. Darius wasn't looking at her. He was staring into the crowd. At someone else. Slowly, he smiled. The smile made Alara's stomach twist. Because it wasn't meant for her. It was meant for Celine. The noblewoman stepped forward. Gasps spread through the clearing. Alara's pulse quickened. Confusion filled her mind. What was happening? The moon priest looked alarmed. "Darius?" The Alpha King's voice rang across the clearing. Cold, clear, merciless. "I reject Alara Nightingale." The words struck harder than any blade. For a moment she couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't move. The crowd exploded. Shock, laughter, whispers, chaos. Alara stared at him, certain she had heard wrong. Darius? Her voice barely existed. The Alpha King finally looked at her. No warmth, no regret, nothing. I reject you as my mate. Pain ripped through her chest. The bond shattered. A scream nearly escaped her throat. Tears burned her eyes. Around her people whispered eagerly, like they were watching entertainment. Not heartbreak. Not destruction. The moon priest looked horrified. You cannot do this without consequence. I know. Darius didn't care. He extended his hand toward Celine, and she took it. Cheers erupted from the noble families. The humiliation became complete. Alara wanted to disappear, to run, to hide forever. Instead, she stood frozen, broken. Then someone began clapping. Slow, deliberate. The sound echoed through the clearing. Every head turned. A man emerged from the shadows beyond the torches. Tall, broad-shouldered, wearing silver armor marked with a wolf crest nobody expected to see tonight. The crowd instantly fell silent. Fear spread across countless faces. Because everyone knew who he was. Alpha Kale Raventhorn, the king of the Northern Territories, Darius's greatest rival. The man rumored to have never lost a battle. The man who had nearly started a war 3 years earlier. Darius's expression darkened. What are you doing here? Kale ignored him, his silver eyes fixed on Alara. Not with pity, not with amusement. Something else. Something impossible to understand. The crowd watched in stunned silence as he walked toward the platform, toward the rejected Omega, toward the woman everyone had just mocked. Then Kale stopped directly in front of her and dropped to one knee. A collective gasp swept through the kingdom. Alara's breath caught. Darius stepped forward, furious. Kale! But Kale never looked away from Alara. Instead, he reached into his cloak and revealed an ancient silver crown, the legendary crown of the Northern Luna. A crown believed lost for generations. The entire crowd froze. Then Kale spoke. Alara Nightingale. His voice carried across the clearing. Strong. Certain. Dangerously calm. I have searched for you for 10 years. The world tilted beneath her feet. 10 years? What did he mean? Before Alara could speak, Kale lifted his eyes and revealed a secret that made every alpha present turn pale. You were never meant to be Darius's mate. The sacred fire exploded with silver light, and the moon mark hidden beneath Alara's necklace suddenly began to glow. Chapter 2. The silver light spread across the clearing. People stumbled backward, some shielded their eyes, others dropped to their knees. No one understood what they were seeing, least of all Alara. Her hand flew to her throat. The moonstone necklace burned against her skin, not painfully, but intensely, as if something hidden beneath it had awakened. What is happening? Her voice trembled. Kale rose slowly to his feet. His gaze never left hers. For the first time since arriving, something softened in his expression. Not affection, not love, recognition. Like he had finally found something he had spent years searching for. Darius stepped forward. His wolf growled beneath the surface. Answer her. Kale ignored him, again. The insult made several nobles gasp. Nobody ignored the Alpha King. Nobody except Kale Raventhorn. The Northern Alpha looked at Alara. Take off the necklace. Her heart pounded. What? The necklace? Alara hesitated. It had belonged to her mother. She had never removed it. Not once. The crowd waited. The moonlight seemed brighter now. The air felt strange. Heavy. Almost electric. Finally, with shaking fingers, Alara unclasped the chain. The moment the moonstone left her skin, something appeared beneath it. A silver mark. Beautiful, ancient, glowing. A symbol unlike any mating mark anyone had ever seen. The entire clearing fell silent. The moon priest stared, his face drained of color. No, the old priest stumbled forward. No, that's impossible. Darius frowned. What is it? The priest looked ready to collapse. That mark, his voice cracked. That mark belongs to the first Luna. Shock exploded through the crowd. People began whispering immediately. The first Luna, the legendary woman who had united the Wolf Kingdoms centuries ago. Most believed she was only a story, a myth, a fairy tale told to children. Darius laughed harshly. Ridiculous. But the priest wasn't laughing. Neither was Kale. And suddenly Alara felt very cold. She looked down at the glowing symbol. What does this mean? Nobody answered immediately. Then Kale finally spoke. It means someone has lied to you your entire life. A chill ran through her. What lie? Before Kale could answer, a voice interrupted. Enough. Darius stepped between them. His eyes burned with anger. This ceremony is over. The crowd shifted nervously. Nobody moved. Nobody wanted to leave now. Not after this. Not after whatever secret had just begun to surface. Darius pointed toward the gates. Take her away! Several guards immediately obeyed. Ilara felt panic rise inside her. No. One guard grabbed her arm. Instantly a growl thundered through the clearing. The sound froze everyone, including the guard. Kale stood perfectly still. Yet the warning in his eyes was unmistakable. Touch her again, and die. The guard released Ilara so quickly he nearly fell over. Darius's face darkened. You threaten my wolves inside my kingdom? Kale folded his arms. They threaten my guest. A murmur swept through the crowd. Guest? Ilara stared at him. She wasn't his guest. She barely knew him. In fact, she had never met him before tonight. Or so she thought. Kale suddenly looked at her. Do you remember a cabin near Blackwater Lake? Her breath caught. The question struck unexpectedly. Blackwater Lake? A distant memory surfaced. A wooden cabin. Snow. Laughter. A man carrying her on his shoulders. The image vanished almost immediately. Ilara frowned. I was very young. Kale nodded. You were 6. A strange feeling twisted inside her chest. How did he know that? Before she could ask, Celine stepped forward, her beautiful face filled with irritation. Darius, stop entertaining this nonsense. The noblewoman wrapped her arm around the Alpha Kings. The ceremony is finished. Kale glanced at her. Only once. But the look alone made her step backward. He wasn't intimidated. Not even slightly. You should be careful. Celine stiffened. What? Kale's voice remained calm. You're standing on stolen ground. The clearing erupted with whispers. Celine's face turned white. Darius's eyes narrowed. What does that mean? Kale smiled. It wasn't a pleasant smile. It was the smile of someone holding a weapon nobody else could see. You'll find out soon enough. For the first time all evening, uncertainty flashed across Darius's face. Ilara noticed it immediately, and so did everyone else. The Alpha King hated uncertainty, hated weakness, hated losing control, yet tonight control seemed to be slipping through his fingers. The moonlight suddenly intensified again. Ilara gasped. Pain shot through the mark on her neck. Sharp, unexpected. She nearly collapsed. Kale caught her before she hit the ground. The moment his hand touched her arm, the silver mark exploded with light. The crowd cried out. A powerful gust of wind swept across the clearing. Torches flickered violently. Several went out completely. Then came the voice. Not from Kale. Not from Darius. Not from any person present. A woman's voice. Ancient. Gentle. Powerful. It echoed from everywhere at once. The lost bloodline returns. Silence followed. Absolute silence. Every wolf froze. No one dared breathe. Ilara's entire body shook. Had everyone heard that? Or was she losing her mind? The terrified expressions around her answered immediately. Everyone had heard it. The moon priest dropped to both knees. Tears filled his eyes. The moon goddess. People followed his example. One by one. Nobles. Warriors. Servants. Even powerful alphas lowered themselves. Everyone except Darius. And Kale. The two Alpha Kings stared at each other. The tension felt unbearable. like war itself stood between them. Then Darius spoke quietly. "What are you hiding?" Kale's expression didn't change. "The truth." "What truth?" "The truth your father buried." The words hit like a thunderclap. Darius went still, completely still. His father, the former Alpha King, dead for 8 years, respected by the entire kingdom. Alara watched confusion spread across the crowd. Nobody understood, but everyone sensed danger. Real danger. Darius took a step forward. "What does my father have to do with this?" Kale looked at Alara. Not Darius. Her. And that frightened her more than anything else. Because whatever answer was coming, it involved her. "You deserve to know who you are." Alara's pulse raced. "I already know who I am." Kale shook his head slowly. "No." His voice softened. "You know who they told you to be." The words struck deeper than they should have, because part of her feared he was right. She had never known her father. Her mother had died when she was 12. Most of her childhood memories felt incomplete, like pieces missing from a broken mirror. Kale reached into his cloak. Again. This time he removed a small leather pouch. Ancient, worn, protected carefully for years. He handed it to her. Alara hesitated, then accepted it. The moment she opened the pouch, her breath vanished. Inside lay a faded photograph, a family portrait, a woman, a man, and a little girl. A little girl with dark hair, a moonstone necklace, and Alara's face. Her hands started shaking. "What?" Her voice barely worked. Then she saw the man standing beside the child, the man's face, the crown on his head, the royal crest embroidered on his cloak. The entire world stopped, because she recognized him instantly. The man in the photograph wasn't a stranger. It was the former king, Darius's father. And written beneath the photograph were 5 words. "The Lost Princess of Silvermoon." Alara looked up. Horror filled her eyes, and across the clearing, Darius suddenly realized exactly what that meant. His face turned pale. Because if the photograph was real, then the woman he had just publicly rejected was the rightful heir to the kingdom. Chapter 3. The photograph slipped from Alara's trembling fingers. It fluttered onto the stone platform. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. The entire clearing felt frozen in time. Alara stared at the image, then at Darius, then back at the image. Her mind refused to understand. "This isn't real." The words came out as a whisper. "It can't be." Kale bent down and picked up the photograph. His movements were calm, patient, as if he had expected this reaction. "Your mother kept many secrets." Alara shook her head. "No." Her breathing became uneven. "My mother was a healer. Yes, she wasn't a queen." Kale's eyes softened. She was both. The crowd erupted. Voices exploded in every direction. A princess. A lost heir. A hidden bloodline. The rumors spread instantly. The moon priest raised both hands. "Silence." His voice echoed across the clearing. Slowly, the noise faded. Alara could barely hear any of it. Her heart was pounding too loudly. A memory suddenly flashed inside her mind. A woman kneeling before her. Dark hair, gentle eyes, tears running down her cheeks. "Promise me something." Young Alara had nodded. "Never tell anyone about the mark." The memory vanished. Alara gasped. Her knees nearly gave out. Kale steadied her. Again. This time she didn't pull away. Because her entire world was falling apart, and somehow he seemed to be the only person standing firmly inside it. Darius watched the interaction. Something dark flashed across his face. Not jealousy. Not yet. Something closer to confusion. Because none of this made sense. He pointed at Kale. "Explain." Kale finally turned toward him. "You remember the Silver Moon Massacre." The clearing became silent again. Every wolf knew that story. 22 years ago, an entire royal bloodline vanished. A castle burned. A kingdom collapsed. The official story claimed enemies from the east had killed everyone. No survivors. No heirs. Nothing remained. Darius crossed his arms. "What about it?" Kale's voice became colder. It was a lie. Shock rippled through the crowd. Even the wind seemed to stop. The Northern Alpha continued. The royal family wasn't killed by outsiders. The silence deepened. It was betrayed from within. Darius frowned. What are you saying? Kale took a step forward. I'm saying your father ordered it. Gasps erupted everywhere. Several wolves looked physically ill. Others immediately denied it. No. Impossible. The old king would never. That's a lie. The clearing descended into chaos again. Darius's wolf surged beneath his skin. Anger radiated from him. You dare accuse my father of murder? Kale didn't flinch. He murdered more than a family. The rival Alpha's silver eyes darkened. He murdered a kingdom. Alara felt dizzy. Everything seemed unreal. Like a nightmare she couldn't wake from. Darius took another step forward. You have proof? The question hung in the air. Kale's expression didn't change. Yes. The single word hit like thunder. The crowd immediately fell silent. Proof, not accusations, not rumors. Proof. For the first time that night, uncertainty returned to Darius's face. Kale looked at Alara. The proof belongs to her. What? Alara blinked. Kale pointed toward the leather pouch. There's more. Her hands shook as she opened it again. Inside was another object. A folded letter. Old. Fragile. The edges yellow with age. Her stomach tightened. The handwriting on the outside looked familiar. Painfully familiar. She recognized it instantly. Her mother's handwriting. Tears filled her eyes. No! Her voice cracked. The world around her disappeared. Nothing existed except that letter. For years she had wished for one more conversation, one more hug, one more chance to hear her mother's voice. And now, somehow, part of her had returned. Slowly, Alara unfolded the paper. The crowd watched in complete silence. The first line made her knees weaken. My dearest daughter. A tear slid down her cheek. She kept reading. If you are reading this, then I have failed to protect you. Another tear followed. Forgive me. I never wanted you to carry this burden. You were born a princess. You were born the heir to Silvermoon, and because of that, powerful people wanted you dead. Alara's vision blurred. The words felt impossible. Yet every line carried her mother's voice. Every sentence sounded real. Alive. Trust the northern wolf. Her eyes widened. She looked at Kale. He remained silent, waiting. His family swore to protect ours long before you were born. One day he will find you. When that day comes, listen carefully, because the truth will finally be safe. The letter trembled in her hands. The next sentence shattered what little strength remained inside her. The former king betrayed us. Never forget that. The clearing exploded. Wolves shouted. Nobles argued. Several guards looked terrified. The moon priest appeared ready to faint. Darius stood completely motionless. His face unreadable, but his clenched fists revealed everything. Alara couldn't stop staring at the letter. Every piece of her life suddenly looked different. Every memory, every struggle, every unanswered question. Had her mother really hidden her for all these years? Had she spent her entire life pretending to be an Omega while carrying royal blood? And if that was true, why? The answer came seconds later. Kale spoke quietly. Because people were still hunting you. A chill swept through her body. What? Kale looked toward the crowd. Specifically toward the nobles. Some still are. Several faces immediately went pale. Alara noticed. So did everyone else. The atmosphere shifted. The danger suddenly felt real. Very real. Not history. Not old stories. Present danger. Living danger. A nobleman near the front looked away too quickly. Another seemed nervous. Sweat glistened on his forehead. Kale noticed both. His wolf missed nothing. Darius followed his gaze, then frowned. Because he noticed something strange. Several influential families appeared frightened. Not surprised. Frightened. As if they already knew more than they should. Before anyone could speak, a scream echoed from the back of the clearing. Everyone turned. A messenger was running toward them. Panicked. Covered in dust. The man nearly collapsed, reaching the platform. "My king!" His voice cracked. Darius stepped forward. "What happened?" The messenger struggled to breathe, then finally forced out the words. "The royal archives." Darius frowned. "What about them?" The messenger swallowed hard. "They've been attacked." Shock swept through the crowd. The archives contained centuries of records. History, bloodlines, treaties, secrets. Nobody would attack them without a reason. Darius's expression hardened. "When?" "Minutes ago." The messenger looked terrified. "Someone broke into the restricted vault." Kale's eyes narrowed. Immediately. Like he had expected this. Alara noticed, and suddenly understood. The attack wasn't random. Someone was trying to destroy evidence. The same evidence that might prove who she really was. Darius realized it too. His face darkened. Who did it? The messenger hesitated. Fear crossed his face. Then he looked directly at Alara. The attackers weren't trying to steal documents. The clearing became silent. They were searching for one person. Alara felt her blood turn cold. The messenger pointed toward her and spoke the words nobody wanted to hear. They were asking if the lost princess had been found. A deadly growl rolled through the crowd, because suddenly everyone understood. The hunt for Alara wasn't over. It had just begun, and somewhere inside the kingdom, someone already knew she was alive. Chapter 4. The clearing erupted into chaos. Wolves shouted. Guards rushed forward. Nobles demanded answers. But Alara heard almost none of it. Only one sentence echoed inside her mind. Someone already knew she was alive. Not knew, had always known, and had been waiting. Waiting for her to reveal herself. Waiting for a mistake. Waiting for tonight. A cold shiver crawled down her spine. For 22 years she had lived as nobody, a forgotten Omega, a servant, invisible. And now, within a single hour, she had become the most hunted woman in the kingdom. Kale suddenly stepped closer. His voice dropped low enough that only she could hear. "We need to leave." Alara looked up. "Leave? Now?" His eyes scanned the crowd, watching, calculating, searching for threats. "You're not safe here." The words should have frightened her. Instead, strangely, they felt true, because she no longer knew who was friend and who was enemy. Not anymore. Not after tonight. Darius overheard. His expression hardened immediately. "She's not going anywhere." Kale turned toward him. The air between them grew tense again. "She stays here and she dies." Several wolves gasped. Darius's jaw tightened. "You don't know that." "I do." The certainty in Kale's voice unsettled everyone, especially Alara, because he didn't sound worried, he sounded experienced. As if he had seen this before. As if he already knew how the story ended. The Northern Alpha looked directly at her. "Your mother died protecting you." Alara froze. The words hit harder than anything else. "What?" Kale hesitated. For the first time all night, a shadow crossed his face. She wasn't sick. The world seemed to tilt. Alara stared at him, unable to breathe, unable to move. "What did you say?" Kale's voice softened. "Your mother wasn't sick." "No?" Alara shook her head immediately. "No." The healer who raised her had always told the same story. Her mother became ill. Her condition worsened. Then she died. Simple. Tragic. Ordinary. Kale slowly shook his head. She was poisoned. Silence. Pure silence. Even the crowd seemed to disappear. Alara heard only those words. She was poisoned. The pain hit instantly. Like a blade through her chest. Her mother, the kindest person she had ever known. The woman who had sacrificed everything. Poisoned. Murdered. Tears filled her eyes. "No." Kale looked away briefly. A rare sign of emotion. "I wish I were wrong." The tears escaped before she could stop them. Everything hurt. Everything. Her childhood. Her memories. Her loss. Even her grief had been a lie. Darius watched her carefully. Something uncomfortable stirred inside him. Something he didn't recognize. Guilt. The sight of her crying affected him more than it should have, more than he wanted. He pushed the feeling away immediately, but it remained, like a thorn beneath his skin. Suddenly, a guard rushed toward the platform. "My king!" Darius turned. "What is it?" The guard lowered his voice, but everyone nearby still heard. A body was found near the archives. The clearing fell silent again. Darius frowned. "Whose body?" The guard swallowed. "Lord Harrow." Several nobles gasped. One woman nearly fainted. Lord Harrow was one of the oldest noblemen in the kingdom. Powerful, influential, connected to dozens of important families. Darius's eyes narrowed. "How did he die?" The guard hesitated. Fear appeared in his face. Then he answered. "A silver dagger." Kale immediately went still. Completely still. Alara noticed. So did Darius. The Northern Alpha rarely showed emotion. Yet something about those words affected him. Darius stepped closer. "You recognize the weapon." It wasn't a question. Kale's expression darkened. "Yes. What is it?" A long silence followed. Then Kale answered. "The same weapon used to kill the Silver Moon royal family." Shock exploded across the clearing. People immediately started whispering. Others looked terrified, because the meaning was obvious. Someone connected to the old massacre was active again. After 22 years, the nightmare had returned, and Alara was at the center of it. A sudden scream interrupted everyone's thoughts. The sound came from the crowd. A woman, terrified, pointing toward the moonlit forest. Every head turned. Something moved between the trees. A figure, dark, watching. Alara's pulse raced. The stranger stood completely still. Just beyond the torches, hidden by shadows, watching her, only her. Then the figure slowly raised a hand and pointed directly at Alara. The crowd gasped. Several guards immediately charged forward, but the stranger vanished, gone, as if swallowed by darkness. The forest became silent once more. Nobody spoke. Nobody needed to. The message was clear. Someone was hunting her. And they weren't afraid to announce it. Kale's wolf surged beneath his skin. Danger radiated from him. He turned to Darius. "This is exactly what I warned you about." For several seconds, Darius didn't answer. Then finally he exhaled, slowly, reluctantly. "Take her." The clearing went silent. Alara blinked. Darius looked disgusted with himself, but he continued. "Until we understand what's happening." Kale studied him carefully, suspicious. "You trust me with her?" "No." The answer came immediately. "I trust whoever is hunting her, even less." For the first time that night, Kale almost smiled. Almost. Then he looked at Alara. "We leave in 10 minutes. Her heart skipped. Leave? With him? Travel north? Away from everything she knew? The thought terrified her. Yet staying felt even worse, because someone had already tried to find her. Someone had already started killing, and somehow she knew it wouldn't stop there. Not now, not after the truth had begun to surface. An hour later, the kingdom's gates disappeared behind them. The night air felt colder. Alara rode beside Kale through a forest road lit only by moonlight. Neither spoke much. Several northern warriors surrounded them, silent, disciplined, watchful. Nothing like the wolves she had grown up around. The journey felt unreal, like she had stepped into someone else's life. Finally, she broke the silence. "Why me?" Kale glanced toward her. "What? Why spend 10 years searching for someone you didn't know?" His expression became unreadable. For a moment, she thought he wouldn't answer. Then he did. "My father made a promise." "A promise?" "To your grandfather." Alara frowned. "The king?" Kale nodded. "When Silvermoon fell, my family failed to save yours." A shadow crossed his face. "And my father never forgave himself." Something in his voice sounded personal, painful, like an old wound. For the first time, Alara saw something beneath the warrior. Not strength, not power. Regret. A very old regret. The realization surprised her. She had expected arrogance, coldness, pride. Instead, she found something far more human. The silence between them changed slightly. Not comfortable, not yet, but different. Less hostile, less uncertain. Suddenly, one of the warriors raised a hand. Everyone stopped immediately. Kale's expression sharpened. What is it? The warrior dismounted, then crouched beside the road, studying something. The moonlight revealed deep marks in the dirt. Horse tracks. Fresh. Very fresh. The warrior looked up. Someone crossed here recently. Kale climbed down from his horse. He examined the tracks himself. His eyes narrowed. Alara noticed something she didn't like. The northern alpha looked worried. Actually worried. That frightened her more than anything. Because powerful men like Kale didn't scare easily. How many? He asked. The warrior answered quietly. At least 20. A chill swept through the group. 20 riders. At night. In the middle of nowhere. Not normal. Not a coincidence. Kale stood slowly. His gaze moved toward the dark forest ahead. Then he spoke one word. Run. The next second an arrow exploded from the trees, straight toward Alara's heart. Chapter 5. The arrow flew through the darkness, straight toward Alara. Everything happened too fast. She didn't even have time to scream. A powerful arm wrapped around her waist. Kale. He ripped her from the saddle. The arrow shot past, missing her chest by inches. Then chaos erupted. Ambush! Northern warriors drew their weapons instantly. More arrows burst from the forest. One struck a horse. Another buried itself in a warrior's shoulder. The night exploded with growls. Steel, shouting. Blood. Kale pushed Alara behind him. Stay down. The command was sharp. Absolute. Another arrow flew. Kale caught it in midair. Snapped it. Then charged into the trees. Alara stared in shock. No hesitation, no fear. The alpha moved like a storm. 3 attackers lunged from the darkness. The fight lasted seconds. The first hit the ground. The second crashed into a tree. The third never reached him. The northern warriors followed. The forest became a battlefield. Alara crouched beside a fallen log. Her heart pounded wildly. This was because of her. These men were dying because of her. The realization made her sick. A wounded warrior collapsed nearby. Blood soaked his side. Without thinking, Alara ran toward him. The man looked shocked. My lady, don't talk. She pressed her hands against the wound. Blood continued flowing. Too much blood. The warrior's face turned pale. No. Alara's breathing quickened. No, no, no. She had spent years helping healers. Years treating injuries, but this wound was bad, very bad. The warrior was dying. Suddenly the silver mark on her neck began glowing. Brightly. Painfully. Alara gasped. The light spread through her fingers. The wounded warrior froze. His eyes widened. Then something impossible happened. The bleeding stopped. Instantly. The torn flesh began closing. Slowly. Unnaturally. Like invisible hands were stitching the wound together. The warrior stared. Alara stared. Everyone nearby stared. The forest battle suddenly seemed far away. Because nobody could believe what they were seeing. Within seconds the wound disappeared. Gone. Not healed. Gone. As though it had never existed. The warrior looked down, then back at her. Terror and awe mixed in his expression. My goddess. Alara pulled her hands away. Her entire body shook. What just happened? Nobody answered. Because nobody knew. A moment later, Kale emerged from the darkness. Blood stained his armor. Not his blood. The attackers. The battle was over. At least for now. The northern alpha approached, then stopped. His gaze fell on the healed warrior. The warrior immediately lowered his head. My alpha. Kale looked at Alara, then at the warrior, then back at Alara. You healed him. It wasn't a question. She swallowed hard. I think so. The warrior interrupted. No. His voice trembled. You did. He looked like a man who had witnessed a miracle. Others nearby shared the same expression. Fear, wonder, disbelief. Kale remained silent for several seconds. Then he exhaled slowly. That's not possible. Ilara laughed bitterly. I agree. But the evidence stood right in front of them. A man who should have been bleeding to death, now perfectly healthy. Kale's silver eyes darkened, as if another puzzle piece had fallen into place, and he didn't like where the picture was leading. Suddenly a voice called out, "My Alpha!" One of the warriors emerged from the forest, dragging a prisoner. The man struggled wildly, his face hidden beneath a black hood. The captured attacker cursed violently. Kale walked forward. "Who sent you?" The prisoner laughed. A horrible laugh, mocking, unafraid. Kale grabbed the hood and ripped it away. The entire group froze. Alara's breath caught, because she recognized him. Everyone did. The attacker wasn't a mercenary, wasn't a criminal, wasn't a stranger. He was one of Darius's royal guards. The silence became deadly. Kale's expression hardened. Darius? The prisoner immediately laughed again. Not Darius. The answer surprised everyone. Kale narrowed his eyes. Then who? The man smiled. Blood stained his teeth. You still don't understand. A chill ran through Alara. There was something wrong with him. Something disturbing. Almost fanatical. The prisoner looked directly at her and smiled wider. The princess finally lives. Alara felt sick. Who are you? The man's eyes gleamed. Someone who remembers. Kale stepped forward. Answer the question. The prisoner's smile vanished. Then he spoke. Quietly. Almost reverently. The shadow circle. The name hit Kale immediately. His face darkened. Several northern warriors exchanged worried looks. Ilara noticed. What is that? Nobody answered right away. Finally, Kale spoke. A secret organization. The tension in his voice frightened her. They were supposed to be destroyed 20 years ago. The prisoner laughed. You failed. Kale looked ready to kill him. The man continued. The circle never died. His eyes returned to Alara. We simply waited. A cold feeling settled in her stomach. Waited. For her. The realization was horrifying. The prisoner seemed to enjoy her reaction. You were always meant to die. Kale grabbed him by the throat. Instantly. Violently. The man's feet left the ground. Careful. Kale's voice became deadly. Very careful. The prisoner smiled anyway. Almost proudly. Kill me. Kale tightened his grip. The prisoner coughed. Then laughed again. Actually laughed. You think this matters? His gaze shifted toward Alara. The circle already knows where she is. Fear flashed through the group. The prisoner saw it and smiled wider. You are too late. Kale released him abruptly. The attacker collapsed. Still laughing. Still smiling. Still terrifying. Then suddenly he froze. Everyone frowned. The man blinked once. Twice. Then blood poured from his mouth. Kale moved immediately. But it was already too late. The prisoner collapsed sideways. Dead. The forest became silent. One warrior knelt beside him, then looked up. Poison. Kale cursed. The man had killed himself. Or someone had prepared him to die. Either way, their answers were gone. Alara stared at the corpse, the fear inside her growing stronger. Who were these people? Why had they waited so long? Why were they so desperate to kill her? And what exactly was the shadow circle? Kale seemed lost in thought, dangerously lost, as if memories were resurfacing. Old memories, dark memories. Finally he turned toward the group. We move immediately. The warriors nodded. No arguments. No hesitation. Whatever the shadow circle was, they understood the threat. Alara mounted her horse again. Exhaustion weighed heavily on her. Everything hurt. Her mind, her heart, her soul. Hours ago she had been preparing for a wedding. Now she was fleeing assassins, learning she was a princess, discovering her mother had been murdered, and somehow healing people with powers she didn't understand. None of it felt real. As dawn approached, mountains appeared on the horizon. Massive. Ancient. Covered in mist. Kale slowed his horse. We're close. Alara looked ahead. Close to what? The northern alpha pointed toward the mountains. There. At first she saw nothing. Then the morning fog shifted, and something emerged. A fortress. Enormous. Carved directly into the mountainside. Silver towers rose above the clouds. Ancient walls stretched for miles. The sight stole her breath. It can't be. Kale nodded slowly. It is. Alara stared, because she recognized it from old storybooks. The fortress every child knew. The fortress believed abandoned for centuries. The legendary seat of the northern wolves. And as the gates slowly opened, Kale revealed another secret, one that changed everything again. Welcome home. Alara frowned. Home? Before she could ask what he meant, a woman appeared atop the fortress wall. Silver-haired, elderly, powerful. The moment she saw Alara, tears filled her eyes. Then she shouted words that made every northern warrior kneel. The moon heir has returned. And suddenly, the entire fortress erupted into celebration. Chapter 6. The fortress bells rang across the mountains. Once, twice, then again. Their sound echoed through the valleys. Deep, ancient, powerful. Alara stared in disbelief. Hundreds of wolves poured into the courtyards. Warriors, servants, children, elders, all rushing toward the gates. Not to see Kale, to see her. The attention felt unbearable. She wanted to disappear. Instead, everyone stared, as if she were a miracle, or a ghost. The silver-haired woman descended the fortress steps quickly despite her age. Tears streamed down her face. When she reached Alara, she stopped. Her hands trembled. My goddess. The woman looked at the glowing mark on Alara's neck, then lowered herself to one knee. The entire courtyard followed. Thousands of wolves. Kneeling. The sight made Alara panic. No. She immediately stepped back. Please don't. Nobody moved. The silver-haired woman looked up. Her eyes were filled with emotion. You have your mother's eyes. Alara froze. The words struck deep. You knew her. The woman's lips trembled. Knew her? A sad smile appeared. I loved her. More tears filled Alara's eyes. Everything reminded her of her mother lately. Every conversation, every secret, every truth. The silver-haired woman stood slowly. My name is Lady Mira. Something flashed across Kale's face. Respect. Real respect. That alone told Alara how important the woman was. Mira gently touched Alara's cheek. I searched for you for years. Alara swallowed hard. Why? The older woman's smile faded. Because your mother saved my life. The answer surprised her. Before she could ask more, Kale interrupted. Inside. His voice was firm, protective. We aren't safe outside. The mood immediately changed. The celebration faded. Reality returned. Assassins. The shadow circle. The attack. Everyone remembered. Mira nodded. You're right. Within minutes they entered the fortress. Massive doors closed behind them. Heavy locks slid into place. Yet somehow, Alara still didn't feel safe. Later that afternoon, Alara stood alone on a balcony overlooking the mountains. The view was breathtaking. Endless forests stretched beneath the clouds. Snow-covered peaks glimmered in the distance. Any other day she would have loved it. Today she barely noticed. Too much had happened. Too many questions remained unanswered. The balcony door opened quietly. She already knew who it was. Kale. His footsteps were becoming familiar. The realization surprised her. They had known each other only 2 days. Yet somehow she already recognized his presence. Neither spoke immediately. The silence wasn't uncomfortable anymore. Not entirely. Finally, Kale joined her beside the railing. You should rest. Alara laughed softly. I don't think I can. A faint smile touched his lips. Rare, brief, gone almost instantly. The sight caught her off guard. It changed his entire face. Made him look younger, less dangerous, more human. She quickly looked away. Kale noticed, but said nothing. After a moment, Alara spoke again. What happens now? The question hung between them. Kale looked toward the mountains. We find the truth. About the shadow circle? About everything. His voice became quieter. Darius's father. The massacre. Your mother. The list felt endless. Alara wrapped her arms around herself. I'm scared. The admission surprised even her. Kale looked at her. Really looked. For several seconds. Then he answered honestly. So am I. Alara blinked. The response shocked her. Powerful men rarely admitted fear, especially alpha kings. Yet Kale had, without hesitation, without shame, and somehow that honesty comforted her, more than false confidence ever could. Suddenly, footsteps echoed behind them. A warrior approached quickly. My alpha. Kale turned. What is it? The warrior looked uneasy. There's a visitor. Kale frowned. A visitor? The fortress guards almost never allowed strangers inside, especially now, especially after the ambush. The warrior nodded. He insists on seeing Lady Alara. Every instinct inside Kale sharpened. Who is he? The warrior swallowed, then answered, an old healer. Alara's eyes widened. A healer? The warrior nodded. He claims he knew your mother. Silence. Complete silence. Alara's pulse raced. Another person connected to her mother. Another piece of the past. Another chance for answers. Kale looked suspicious. Name? The warrior answered immediately. Elias Thorne. Alara froze. The name hit her like lightning. Because she knew it. Not personally, but from stories. Her mother used to mention him. Rarely. Always carefully. As if speaking the name brought back painful memories. Kale noticed her reaction. You know him? Only from my mother's stories. The Northern Alpha's expression remained guarded. Dangerously guarded. He didn't trust coincidences. Neither did Alara. Not anymore. Still, if this man truly knew her mother, she needed answers. Kale sighed. Finally. Bring him in. An hour later, the old healer entered the fortress library. Alara immediately understood why her mother remembered him. The man looked ancient. His silver beard reached nearly to his chest. Deep lines covered his face, yet his eyes remained sharp, very sharp. The moment he saw Alara, he stopped walking. Tears appeared instantly. For a long moment he simply stared, then whispered, Liana. Alara's heart broke, because Liana had been her mother's name. The healer shook his head. No, his voice cracked. Not Liana. He smiled sadly. Her daughter. Alara stepped forward. You knew her. The old man laughed softly. Knew her? He wiped his eyes. Child, I helped deliver you. The room went silent. Alara stared. You were there? Elias nodded. The old healer looked exhausted, as though carrying decades of secrets. I promised your mother I would never speak. His expression darkened. Until the right time. Kale folded his arms. And now? Elias looked directly at Alara. Now she needs the truth. The old healer reached into his cloak. Everyone immediately tensed. But instead of a weapon, he removed a small wooden box. Beautiful, ancient, covered with silver carvings. Alara's breath caught, because she recognized the symbol engraved on top, the same symbol as her glowing mark, the first Luna's symbol. Elias carefully placed the box on the table. His hands shook. Your mother entrusted this to me. Alara's pulse raced. What is it? The old healer looked suddenly nervous. Actually nervous. Which frightened everyone in the room. Because men carrying simple boxes didn't usually look terrified. Elias swallowed, then answered. The reason your family was murdered. The air seemed to leave the room. Nobody spoke. Nobody moved. The old healer slowly opened the lid. Inside rested a single object. A crystal. Small. Silver. Glowing faintly. The moment Alara saw it, pain exploded through her body. She cried out. The mark on her neck burst with light. Books flew from shelves. Windows shattered. A powerful wave of energy slammed through the library. Kale instantly moved toward her. But the crystal reacted first. A blinding flash filled the room. Then a woman's voice echoed from inside the light. A voice Alara recognized immediately. Her mother's voice. The room froze, and through the glowing crystal, Liana spoke words she had recorded more than 20 years earlier. If you are hearing this, Alara's knees weakened. Tears filled her eyes. Her mother, somehow, some way, she was hearing her mother's voice again. The crystal glowed brighter, and Liana's next words made every person in the library turn pale. The man who ordered our deaths is still alive. Chapter 7. The library fell into stunned silence. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Alara stared at the glowing crystal. Her mother's voice echoed through the room, clear, alive, impossible. Tears streamed down her face. For years she had dreamed of hearing that voice again. Now she would give anything not to hear what came next. Because every word carried danger. Every word carried truth. The crystal glowed brighter. Then Liana continued, "If you are hearing this, then the secret has survived." The room remained frozen. Listen carefully. You do not have much time. Kale stepped closer, his eyes locked on the crystal. The warriors around the room looked equally tense. Even Elias seemed frightened, like he already knew what was coming. The voice continued. The massacre was never about a throne. Alara frowned. Not about a throne? Then why? The shadow circle wanted something far older. A chill swept through the room. Something hidden since the age of the first Luna. The crystal pulsed. Silver light filled every corner. A power known as the Moon Heart. Nobody spoke. The name itself felt ancient. Forbidden. Dangerous. Ilara noticed Kale's expression change. He recognized the name, and he didn't like it. At all. Her mother's voice softened. The Moon Heart was never meant to belong to kings. Or queens. Or warriors. It was entrusted to one bloodline. The crystal brightened again. Our bloodline. Ilara's stomach tightened. The room seemed smaller suddenly. The danger felt closer. More personal. Liana continued. The Moon Heart cannot be stolen. It cannot be controlled. It chooses its guardian. A long pause followed. Then came the words that changed everything. It chose you. The crystal exploded with silver light. Alara cried out. Pain surged through the mark on her neck. Images flashed through her mind. Ancient temples. Silver wolves. A crown. A battlefield. Fire. Blood. Screams. Then darkness. The vision vanished. Alara staggered. Kale caught her instantly. Alara! His voice sounded distant. She struggled to focus. What was that? Nobody answered. Because nobody knew. The crystal continued glowing. Liana's voice returned. Weaker now. As if the recording was reaching its end. The circle believes the Moon Heart is hidden inside a place called the Sanctuary. They are wrong. The room grew silent again. The Moon Heart was hidden inside a person. Alara's blood turned cold. No, no, no. She already knew what was coming, and she didn't want to hear it. Inside my daughter. The crystal went dark. Complete silence followed. The world seemed to stop. Nobody spoke. Nobody moved. Nobody knew what to say. Because the meaning was obvious. The thing the shadow circle had hunted for decades. The thing kingdoms had killed for. The thing that had destroyed her family. Was somehow connected to her. Alara stepped backward. Her breathing became uneven. No. The word escaped automatically. No. Kale looked concerned. Alara? She shook her head. No. This couldn't be happening. She wasn't a princess. She wasn't some chosen guardian. She wasn't special. She was a healer. An omega. A nobody. That was who she had always been. That was who she understood. This felt impossible. Too big. Too dangerous. Too much. The library door suddenly burst open. Everyone spun around. A warrior rushed inside, covered in blood. My alpha. Kale moved immediately. What happened? The warrior struggled to breathe. His face was pale. Terrified. They breached the outer wall. The room froze. Kale's eyes narrowed. Who? The warrior swallowed hard, then answered. The shadow circle. Chaos erupted instantly. Warriors drew weapons. Orders were shouted. Footsteps thundered through the fortress. Kale turned toward Alara. His expression had changed completely. No hesitation. No uncertainty. Only danger. Stay here. She immediately shook her head. No. The answer surprised both of them. Kale frowned. It's not safe. Neither is anywhere else. The words hung in the air. Because they were true. Painfully true. The shadow circle had found her. Again. Running wasn't working. Hiding wasn't working. Nothing was working. Before Kale could argue, another voice echoed through the room. A familiar voice. A voice nobody expected. She's right. Everyone turned. The doorway fell silent. A tall figure stood there, wearing black, travel-stained, exhausted, yet unmistakable. Darius. The Alpha King had arrived. Shock swept through the room. Kale's expression hardened immediately. What are you doing here? Darius ignored him. His eyes found Alara first. For several seconds neither spoke. The silence felt strange, different from before, because everything had changed. She was no longer the rejected Omega, and he was no longer the man she once loved. Finally, Darius looked away, toward Kale. The circle attacked my kingdom. The room went quiet. Darius continued. They killed 3 nobles. Another shockwave moved through the room. 3 nobles. Important nobles. Powerful nobles. Darius's jaw tightened, and every one of them belonged to families connected to my father. Kale's eyes narrowed. Interesting. Very interesting. Darius looked grim. I think someone is cleaning up old secrets. The realization hit everyone at once. The shadow circle wasn't only hunting Alara. They were eliminating witnesses. Anyone connected to the massacre. Anyone who knew the truth. Anyone who could expose them. Darius took a slow breath, then looked directly at Alara. His expression was difficult to read. Regret. Confusion. Something else. Something unfinished. I was wrong. The words stunned the room. Because Alpha Kings didn't apologize. Especially not Darius. Yet here he was, looking directly at the woman he had humiliated. I should have listened. Alara stared. Part of her had imagined hearing those words once. Long ago. Back when she still loved him. Back when his opinion mattered. Now, she felt almost nothing. And somehow that hurt more. Darius noticed. The realization struck him harder than any insult. Because for the first time he understood what he had lost. Not a mate. Not a princess. Her. The woman who had believed in him when nobody else did. The woman who had looked at him with kindness. The woman now looking at him like a stranger. A shadow crossed his face. Kale noticed, and disliked it immediately. The Northern Alpha stepped slightly closer to Alara, instinctively. Protectively. The movement didn't go unnoticed. Neither did the look that followed. Darius saw it, and something dark flickered inside him. Not anger. Not exactly. Something far more dangerous. Jealousy. The realization shocked him, because he had rejected her. Publicly. Cruelly. Yet watching another man stand beside her suddenly felt unbearable. Before anyone could speak further, a horn echoed across the fortress. Once. Twice. 3 times. The sound made every warrior in the room go pale. Kale immediately turned. What is that? The blood-covered warrior answered, his voice trembling. The inner alarm. A deadly silence followed. Kale's face darkened. Impossible. The inner alarm meant only one thing. The enemy wasn't outside anymore. They were already inside. The fortress had been infiltrated. Then came the scream. A woman's scream. Somewhere deep within the fortress. Followed by another. And another. The sound echoed through the halls. Terror spread instantly. Because suddenly everyone understood. The shadow circle hadn't come for a siege. They had come for a capture. And somewhere inside the fortress, someone was already trying to reach Alara. Chapter 8. The screams echoed through the fortress. One after another. Closer each time. Every warrior in the room reached for a weapon. Kale was already moving. Darius. The Alpha King nodded. No arguments. No rivalry. Not now. Both men understood the danger. The Shadow Circle had breached the strongest fortress in the north. That should have been impossible. Yet it had happened, which meant something far worse. Someone had helped them. Someone inside the fortress. A traitor. Kale looked at his warriors. Seal every corridor. Yes, Alpha. Nobody enters or leaves. The warriors sprinted away. The library emptied rapidly. Only Kale, Darius, Alara, Elias, and Lady Mira remained. The old woman looked pale, very pale, as though she suddenly remembered something terrible. Kale noticed immediately. Mira? The elderly woman looked up. What? The Northern Alpha's voice became sharp. What aren't you telling me? Silence. Mira's face drained of color, and Alara's stomach dropped. Because guilty people looked exactly like that. No, the old woman whispered. No. Kale stepped forward. Mira. The woman closed her eyes. Pain crossed her face. Real pain. The kind carried for years. Maybe decades. Then she opened her eyes. And everything changed. There was another survivor. The room froze. Alara blinked. What? Kale stared. Impossible. Everyone believed Alara was the last survivor of Silvermoon, the only heir, the only child who escaped. Mira's voice shook. I thought he was dead. The room became deadly quiet. Darius frowned. Who? The old woman swallowed, then answered. The prince. Alara felt the world tilt. The prince. Her brother. Her mother's son. The child supposedly murdered during the massacre. The brother she never knew existed, or thought she lost forever. Tears instantly filled her eyes. No, her voice cracked. No, that's impossible. Mira looked devastated. I believed it too. Kale's expression darkened. You said everyone died. I know. Then explain. The old woman lowered her head. For several seconds she couldn't speak. Finally she whispered, he was taken. The room went silent. Taken. Not killed. Not lost. Taken. The implication was horrifying. Darius realized it first. The Shadow Circle. Mira nodded slowly. Tears slid down her cheeks. They stole him. Alara's heart pounded violently. A brother. Somewhere. Alive. Maybe. The thought overwhelmed her. Everything was happening too fast. Too much truth. Too many secrets. Too many lies. Kale folded his arms. His face unreadable. Why keep this hidden? Mira looked broken. Because I failed. The answer came quietly, painfully. I was supposed to protect both children. Her voice cracked. I only saved one. Silence followed. Nobody knew what to say. Suddenly, footsteps thundered through the hallway. A warrior burst inside, breathing hard. My Alpha. Kale turned. What happened? The warrior looked shaken. Actually shaken. Which frightened everyone. Because northern warriors rarely showed fear. We found the traitor. The room went still. Kale's eyes narrowed. Who? The warrior hesitated. Then answered. The gate commander. Shock swept through the room. The gate commander had served the North for 15 years. Trusted, respected, loyal, or so everyone believed. Darius cursed under his breath. The warrior continued. He killed 3 guards before escaping. Kale's jaw tightened. Where is he now? The answer came immediately. Heading for the Eastern Tower. Alara suddenly felt sick. Because she remembered something. The Eastern Tower. Lady Mira had mentioned it earlier. A forgotten tower. An abandoned place. A place rarely used. Kale noticed her reaction. What is it? Alara looked toward Mira. The elderly woman's face turned white. Then everyone understood at once. The Eastern Tower wasn't abandoned. Something important was hidden there. Kale's voice became deadly calm. Mira. The old woman lowered her head. The royal vault. The room froze. Of course. The royal vault. The place where the most important Silvermoon artifacts had been hidden after the massacre. The place containing records. Secrets. Evidence. Everything. The Shadow Circle wasn't looking for Alara. Not yet. They were looking for something else. Something hidden inside the vault. Kale immediately moved toward the door. "We're going!" Darius followed without hesitation. Alara stepped forward too. "No." Kale stopped instantly, his voice sharp. "You stay here." She glared at him. For the first time since meeting him. Actually glared. "I'm tired of staying behind." The words surprised everyone, including her. Kale stared. Alara continued. "They're hunting me." Her voice trembled slightly, but she kept going. "This is my family, my kingdom, my secrets." Her eyes burned. "I deserve answers." Silence followed. A long silence. Finally Darius spoke. "She's right." Kale looked annoyed immediately. Darius ignored him. "Whether we like it or not, this involves her." The Northern Alpha exhaled slowly, clearly unhappy, but he knew they were right. Reluctantly. Very reluctantly, he nodded. "Stay close." Ilara almost smiled. Almost. The eastern tower stood at the edge of the fortress. Older than every other structure, its stone walls carried centuries of history. The climb felt endless. Spiral stairs twisted upward through darkness. Torchlight flickered against ancient stone. Nobody spoke much. The atmosphere felt wrong. Too quiet, too tense. As they reached the upper levels, blood appeared on the steps. Fresh blood. Ilara's stomach tightened. Another few steps revealed a body. A guard. Dead. Then another. And another. The traitor was leaving a trail behind him. Kale's expression became darker with every floor. Finally they reached the top. A massive iron door stood open. The royal vault. The air inside felt cold. Unnaturally cold. The group entered cautiously. Shelves lined the walls. Ancient books, artifacts, weapons, treasures, history itself. But none of that drew attention, because someone stood in the center of the room, waiting. The gate commander. The traitor. Blood covered his armor. Yet he seemed strangely calm, almost pleased, as though he expected them. Kale stepped forward. "It's over." The man smiled. "No." His gaze shifted toward Alara. "It's just beginning." The traitor slowly raised something in his hand. A small silver key. Ancient. Glowing faintly. Mira gasped. "No!" The old woman looked horrified. The moon key. Kale immediately understood. The shadow circle had found what they wanted. The traitor smiled wider. "You protected it for 22 years. His eyes gleamed. "Thank you." Then something happened. Something nobody expected. The traitor looked directly at Alara and dropped to one knee. The room froze. Even Kale seemed shocked. The man lowered his head, not in respect, not in surrender, in loyalty. Then he spoke words that made Alara's blood run cold. "My prince sends his greetings." Silence. Absolute silence. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Because there was only one prince he could possibly mean. The lost prince. Alara's brother. The child stolen during the massacre. Alive. Not dead. Not missing. Alive. And somehow connected to the shadow circle. The traitor smiled. Then revealed the final nightmare. The circle didn't steal him. His eyes locked onto Alara. They raised him. The world seemed to stop. Because suddenly the truth became terrifyingly clear. Somewhere beyond the mountains, the shadow circle had spent 22 years turning her brother into their weapon, and now, he was coming for her. Chapter 9. The words hung in the air, like a curse, like a death sentence. They raised him. Alara couldn't breathe. Her brother, the brother she had only learned about minutes ago, alive, but not free, not safe. Raised by the very people who murdered their family. The realization shattered something inside her, because she already knew what it meant. The shadow circle wouldn't have raised a prince out of kindness. They would have shaped him, controlled him, filled his mind with lies. Turned him into exactly what they needed, a weapon. The traitor smiled, enjoying their silence, enjoying their shock. Kale stepped forward, his voice dangerous. "Where is he?" The man laughed. "You'll meet him soon." Darius's wolf surged beneath his skin. Answer him! The traitor merely smiled, then suddenly bit down hard. Kale moved instantly. Too late. Blood spilled from the man's mouth. Poison. Again. The traitor collapsed, dead before he hit the floor. The vault fell silent. Another witness gone. Another answer lost. Darius cursed. Kale looked furious, but Ilara barely noticed. Her mind remained trapped on one thought. My brother is alive. A brother she had never known. A brother who might hate her. A brother who might want her dead. The thought hurt more than she expected, because despite everything, despite never meeting him, he was family. The last family she had left. Or so she thought. Suddenly Lady Mira gasped. Everyone turned. The elderly woman stared at the glowing key. The moon key. Her face had become pale, terrified. Kale noticed immediately. What is it? Mira looked toward Ilara, then toward the key, then finally whispered, the sanctuary. The room became still. Again. Ilara had heard the name before. Inside her mother's message, the place connected to the Moonheart, the place the circle had searched for. Kale folded his arms. The key opens it. Mira nodded slowly. Yes. Silence followed. Then Darius asked the question everyone was thinking. Where is it? The old woman looked toward Ilara. The key only works for her. A chill ran through the room. Of course it did. Everything seemed to lead back to her. The key, the heart, the sanctuary, the bloodline, the circle, all of it. Kale exhaled slowly. We leave at dawn. Darius frowned. Leave? The sanctuary is in the eastern mountains. Kale's silver eyes hardened. If answers exist anywhere, they're there. Nobody argued, because there were no better options. The shadow circle was already moving. The lost prince was already moving. Time was running out. That night, Ilara couldn't sleep. The fortress felt too quiet, too still. She sat alone in a small garden near the northern wall. Moonlight bathed the flowers in silver. For the first time in days, nobody was watching her. No warriors, no nobles, no expectations, just silence. It should have felt peaceful. Instead, it felt lonely. Couldn't sleep either? The voice came from behind her. She turned. Darius, the Alpha King, stood near the garden entrance. His expression looked different tonight. Less proud, less certain, more human. Ilara sighed softly. What do you want? The question wasn't cruel, just tired. Darius accepted it. He deserved worse. For several seconds he remained silent, then finally spoke. I'm sorry. The words sounded genuine, painfully genuine. Ilara looked away. The apology she once dreamed of hearing. Now it felt strangely empty. Not because it wasn't sincere, because it came too late. Darius noticed. The realization hurt. He sat on a nearby stone bench. Not too close, not too far. I thought I was doing the right thing. Ilara laughed bitterly. Rejecting me in front of thousands? His jaw tightened. You don't understand. Then explain. Silence. A long silence. Finally, Darius looked toward the moon. My father warned me about you. Ilara froze. What? Darius nodded slowly. He always did. The words surprised even him, because he had never spoken them aloud, not to anyone. He told me your family couldn't be trusted. Ilara stared. He knew? Not everything. Darius shook his head. But enough. The pieces suddenly began fitting together. The coldness. The distance. The way Darius always seemed conflicted around her. Maybe it hadn't been hatred. Maybe it had been conditioning. Years of lies. Years of manipulation. Darius looked exhausted. For years I fought the bond. His voice became quieter. Because I thought choosing you would destroy my kingdom. Ilara felt a strange ache inside her chest. Not love. That part had already broken. But understanding. A painful understanding. Darius had been wrong. Terribly wrong. But perhaps he had also been used. Just like everyone else. Neither spoke for a while. The moon hung high above them. Finally, Darius stood. I don't expect forgiveness. Ilara remained silent. He nodded. As expected. Then he turned to leave, but stopped after a few steps. Without looking back, he said, "For what it's worth." His voice cracked slightly. "You were always stronger than I deserved." Then he walked away, leaving Ilara alone beneath the moon. And for the first time, she truly let him go. Before dawn, a horn echoed across the fortress. 3 short blasts. An emergency signal. Ilara immediately woke. Footsteps thundered through the halls. Shouts followed. Doors slammed open. Something was wrong. Very wrong. She rushed into the corridor. Warriors sprinted past. Faces pale. Weapons drawn. Then she saw Kale. The Northern Alpha looked furious. Absolutely furious. Something she had never witnessed before. Kale. He turned immediately. The moment he saw her, his expression changed. Fear. Actual fear. Her stomach dropped. "What happened?" Kale hesitated. Just for a second. Then answered. "Darius is gone." Silence. "What?" "He disappeared before sunrise." The words made no sense. Why would Darius leave? Why now? Then Kale handed her something. A folded piece of paper. Ilara opened it. Her blood ran cold. The note contained only one sentence. A sentence written in Darius's handwriting. "Don't follow me." The corridor fell silent. Ilara looked up slowly. Kale's face remained grim. "There's more." The dread inside her grew. "What?" The Northern Alpha exhaled, then revealed the truth. Darius wasn't taken. Her stomach tightened. He left willingly. The words hit hard. But the next words hit harder. Much harder. Kale looked directly into her eyes. "He went to meet your brother." The entire world seemed to stop. Because suddenly, one terrifying possibility became clear. Darius wasn't missing. He wasn't captured. He wasn't fleeing. He had chosen a side. And nobody knew whether he was returning as an ally or an enemy. Chapter 10. The note trembled in Ilara's hands. "Don't follow me." 4 simple words. Yet they felt heavier than stone. Darius had gone to meet her brother. Alone. Without warning. Without protection. Without trust. The fortress buzzed with panic around her. Warriors argued. Scouts prepared horses. Messengers rushed through the halls. But Ilara stood perfectly still. One question echoed through her mind. Why? Why would Darius do something so reckless? Kale seemed to be asking himself the same thing. His jaw remained tight, his expression unreadable. Finally, he turned toward his warriors. "Prepare the horses." The command came instantly. No hesitation. The warriors scattered. Ilara looked at him. "We're going after him." It wasn't a question. Kale nodded. "Yes?" A long silence followed. Then he added quietly, "And we're running out of time." By midday, they reached the eastern mountains. The journey had been brutal. Steep cliffs, narrow paths, ancient forests. Every mile felt dangerous. Yet nothing compared to what waited ahead. The sanctuary, the place from legend, the place connected to the Moonheart, the place her family had died protecting. At first, Ilara saw nothing, only stone, trees, mist. Then the moon key began glowing. Silver light spread across her hand. The ancient key floated upward. The ground trembled. Everyone froze. A deep rumble echoed through the mountains. Then the impossible happened. A hidden doorway emerged from the cliffside. Ancient silver doors, covered in glowing symbols. The sanctuary. Kale stared. Even he looked stunned. Darius was nowhere in sight. Neither was the shadow circle. But they were close. Everyone could feel it. The doors slowly opened. Darkness waited beyond. Ilara swallowed hard, then stepped forward. The moment she crossed the threshold, the moon key shattered. Silver light exploded around her, and the sanctuary awakened. The interior looked nothing like she expected. No treasure, no weapons, no armies, only silence. Ancient silence. The walls glowed softly. Moonlight seemed to shine from nowhere. The deeper they walked, The stranger the air felt, almost alive. Then they heard voices. Kale immediately raised a hand. Everyone stopped. The voices came from ahead. Men arguing. Angrily. They moved forward cautiously. A massive chamber appeared, and Alara's world stopped. Two figures stood in the center, Darius, and another man, tall, dark-haired, silver-eyed, a man who looked eerily familiar, like looking into a broken mirror. The stranger slowly turned, his eyes locked onto Alara. The entire chamber fell silent. Nobody needed introductions. Nobody needed explanations, because she knew instantly. Her brother, the lost prince. For several seconds nobody moved. The man simply stared, studying her, as if comparing her to memories he didn't possess. Then he laughed softly. Not happily, sadly. "So you're real." Alara's heart pounded. "You're my brother." The words felt unreal. The man's smile disappeared. "My name is Lucian." His voice sounded calm. Too calm. Dangerously calm. Darius stood nearby. Wounded. Exhausted. Yet alive. Relief flooded through Alara. At least until she noticed something. Darius wasn't standing beside Lucian. He was standing against him. A sword rested in his hand, blood stained his sleeve. Kale noticed immediately. His eyes narrowed. "What happened?" Darius answered without looking away from Lucian. "He wants the moon heart." Silence followed. Lucian smiled. "Of course I do." His gaze returned to Alara. "Don't you?" She shook her head. "I don't even know what it is." The prince laughed again. A bitter laugh. "The circle told me the same thing." Pain flashed across his face. Gone almost instantly. For the first time, Alara saw the truth. Lucian wasn't evil. Not completely. He was broken. Raised by monsters. Shaped by lies. Just like Darius had been. Only worse. Much worse. Lucian looked toward the ceiling. "They told me our family abandoned me." His voice became quieter. "They told me you died." Alara's chest ached. "Lucian, they lied." The words cracked. Years of pain hid behind them. Years of loneliness. Years of manipulation. The prince looked tired suddenly. Very tired. The circle lied about everything. Kale stepped forward carefully. "They used you." Lucian laughed. "Yes. No denial. No anger. Just truth. The saddest truth of all." Then his expression hardened again. "But I still need the heart." The chamber trembled. The symbols on the walls brightened. Something was happening. Something big. The sanctuary was reacting. Reacting to him. Reacting to Alara. Reacting to both of them. Suddenly silver light erupted from the floor. Everyone stumbled backward. A voice echoed through the chamber. Ancient. Powerful. The same voice Alara had heard before. The moon goddess. Blood divided. The light intensified. Blood reunited. Lucian froze. "So did Alara," the voice continued. "The choice belongs to both heirs." A crystal appeared above the chamber. Brilliant. Beautiful. Radiating endless silver light. The moon heart. The object everyone had killed for. The object that destroyed kingdoms. The object standing before them now. Lucian stared, entranced. The circle's teachings echoed inside his mind. Take it. Claim it. Use it. Become king. Become powerful. Become everything. His hand slowly reached forward. Then he looked at Alara. Really looked. For the first time. Not as an enemy. Not as an obstacle. As family. A sister. The last piece of his lost life. Tears suddenly appeared in his eyes. The realization hit him all at once. Everything stolen. Everything lost. Everything taken. Because of the circle. His hand trembled, then lowered. The moon heart glowed brighter. The chamber shook. Lucian smiled sadly. "You know what's funny?" Nobody answered. The prince laughed softly. "I don't want it anymore." The words echoed through the sanctuary. Then he turned, and did something nobody expected. He drew a blade, not toward Alara, toward the shadows behind him, toward a hidden passage. A passage where dozens of black-cloaked figures suddenly emerged. The shadow circle. Their leader stepped forward, an elderly man, elegant, terrifying. The mastermind, the man behind everything, the man who orchestrated the massacre, the murders, the lies, the hunt. Lucian's eyes burned with fury. You took everything from me, the old man smiled, and gave you purpose. No. Lucian shook his head. You gave me chains. The shadow circle leader raised a hand. Warriors flooded into the chamber. The final battle began. The fight was fierce, fast, brutal. Kale fought like a storm. Darius fought beside him. For the first time, not rivals, brothers in arms. Lucian fought hardest of all. Because this battle was personal. Years of pain fueled every strike. Years of stolen life. The circle fell one by one. Their power shattered. Their secrets exposed. Their leader finally stood alone. Defeated. Cornered. Finished. The old man looked toward Alara. Hatred filled his eyes. Your family should have died. Before anyone could react, Lucian moved. The prince stepped between them, protecting her, protecting his sister. The attack struck him instead. Alara screamed. Lucian staggered. Blood stained his shirt. The old man lunged again. Kale ended it. One strike. One final strike. The shadow circle leader fell. Forever. The nightmare was over. Weeks later, peace returned. Slowly. Painfully. But it returned. The shadow circle collapsed. Their secrets became public. The truth about the massacre spread across the kingdoms. The innocent were honored. The guilty were exposed. Lucian survived. Barely. His recovery took time, but he recovered. And every day he and Alara rebuilt what had been stolen. A family. At last, Darius stepped down from the throne temporarily, choosing to help restore the damaged kingdoms. Not out of duty, out of responsibility, and perhaps redemption. As for Kale, some things changed slowly, just as they should. Trust came first, then friendship, then understanding. Days became weeks. Weeks became months. The bond between them deepened naturally, without pressure, without destiny forcing it. One evening, beneath a sky full of stars, Kale found Alara standing on a balcony overlooking the northern mountains. Their mountains, their home. He joined her quietly. Neither spoke at first. They didn't need to. Finally, Kale looked at her. You saved us. Alara smiled. We saved each other. A rare smile touched his lips. The kind only she ever saw. Then he reached for her hand. Slowly. Giving her every chance to pull away. She didn't. Their fingers intertwined. Warm. Steady. Certain. No crowns. No prophecies. No wars. Just two people who had earned each other's trust. And finally, their hearts. Kale's voice softened. Would you stay? Alara looked toward the mountains, toward her future, toward the people she loved, then back at him. A smile filled her face. Yes. The answer was simple. The answer was everything. And beneath the light of the moon that had guided them through darkness, the rejected Omega, who had once been laughed at by an entire kingdom, finally found the one thing she had never stopped searching for. A place to belong. The end.